If you guys want to say something, continue to ask questions. I'm going to be asking you lots of questions. Use the chat. That's huge. We are recording this for people in the future. And that's the easiest way to score a goal in lacrosse. Theme this week is a breakout. So picking up on where we left off, which was fast breaks. Obviously, if it's not there, we have to take a bit of a different approach to getting the ball out of our zone. We'll go back to the skill analysis on the transition. We'll walk through some of the drills that you would have been doing on the floor if we were out there, and you'll see some of the progressions you've already done as well as where it was kind of headed. We'll walk through it kind of, so to speak, and what everybody's job is there, and discuss how it relates to the principles of our team, of our defense. And then later on in the session is when we will get into taking up the homework, which is the presses that you may see against a breakout. Basically, a game plan for if the other team throws up any kind of press. So that's the basis of what we're talking about here today. Lots of good responses in the homework. So I am just going to share my screen real quick here. And again, if it's not a fast break, it's a slow break. That's the opposite of when you have numbers. In a slow break, it's either even numbers, which there's sometimes an opportunity with even numbers, and I'll mention that later. But if they have more people back than you have going forward, you're in a slow break. And you can't go too slow, because if you do, well, in pro anyways, there's you only have 8 seconds to get it over. But aside from that, you want to have time on offense. And if it takes you 20 seconds just to get the ball to the other end because you have no urgency, you're going to suffer in your set offense, which is essentially the end game after there's no fast break and you successfully break out safely deep into the other team's zone, ideally, and then finish your change or whatever it may be. So again, this all starts with the goalie. Right? So the goalie makes a save, or the goalie gets a rebound, or there's a rebound and a player grabs the loose ball. But if it hits the goalie, they have 5 seconds to get it out of the crease. If they're not a good thrower, which can sometimes be a problem, you may have to have somebody go into the crease to grab the ball from them. But, I mean, we're in high performance here, so the basic expectation is that you can make a short breakout pass, and the goal is to get to a mid-range pass, I would say, if not a long pass by the end of it all. So we want to establish possession first before we start thinking about the breakout. Okay, if you leave too early on a fast break because, you may have a good reason, you may be down 2 or 3 goals late in the game and you're cheating in that scenario, you're seeing like a loose ball and it's a 50-50 ball and you're hoping your guy's going to get it and you're trying to get some steps the other way. That's one thing, but really you shouldn't be leaving the zone in a tight game or as a habit until your team has possession. And that's why when we do breakout drills, we never have you getting too far ahead of the play. Let's say if the pass has been fumbled between the goalie and the first player, we were doing our out and ups in our outlets. Okay, you guys did get a lot of experience with the 2 basic outlets. We didn't really speak to the third outlet, which is something that's going to come out here soon when we talk about the standard breakout and the positions that everybody goes to. But generally, you never want to leave somebody out alone on a breakout. So you make a pass or whatever, you want to be running in pairs, we call it, especially at the high level. Because if we see somebody who is not with a pair and doesn't have any outlets to pass to, it's a great opportunity to double team that person and steal the ball from them. And that's something you learn with experience. Kai drew up this as a basic breakout for us. So what does everybody see here? Kai, do you want to walk us through your diagram real quick? Oh, we can hear you, bud.
Okay.
I can hear you.
So
Yeah.
the ball starts with the goalie, and then goalie passes it out to the far side of the opposite side from the benches,
Yeah.
and then up to the like middle line, and then the two Ds from the lefties go to the bench to change, and then they get another guy on, and then
Okay.
the guy, the top right there, passes
Yeah.
it to the guy coming on the floor,
Yeah.
and then the two righties go change,
Yeah.
and then the lefties bring it up the floor and set up.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you got two lefties coming off the bench there first. So, yeah, so this is like really, really close. There's one small thing that I'm going to change from this. Okay. So I'm just going to thank you for doing that. Definitely these two outlets here are key. We call this one the low outlet, and we call this one the high outlet. Okay. But the middle outlet here is the defining factor, and we haven't really talked about it yet. The two guys closest to the bench, yes, are generally going to the bench, unless you were playing the two-way system and you were starting out by playing defense, offense, and then off. Right now, I'm just going to assume that we've played offense, we've played defense. Now we're breaking out, and these guys are coming onto the floor based on what you described. And so, really good job. I'm just going to say that this guy up here leaking this high is a bit of a liability if the other team shuts off these two outlets. Now, if you have a goalie who can't make a mid-range pass, it's basically going to be a turnover. So you haven't said for sure that he's going here. It seems like, okay, only if these two passes are successfully made, maybe he's doing that. But in that sense, he's kind of floating, like, is he going or is he coming back? And there's rules to how to view that situation. And so I am going to go over those rules in a second here. Just let me pull something up. Okay, standard breakout coming up. So assuming we were in the house, like Kai, you started them already at these two positions here, because again, here's your low outlet and your high outlet, right? And essentially whoever is closest fills that and fills this. That's the general rule. And again, this high guy really is making a decision. Is it a fast break scenario? Do I take off this way? And if they do, really, this person can fill the high outlet and this person could fill the low outlet and somebody else could be this middle outlet right here. But this middle outlet is the key to guaranteeing your breakout is going to be successful, even if they throw pressure. You can generally find out in the first 2 minutes of a game or first shift if they're going to be throwing pressure. And as a coach, I would say, okay, guys, let's pull out the third outlet here. And let's start hitting the third outlet. And usually most teams don't have an answer for that. And so what it is really these two guys are hard to the bench because they're closest. Once we've obtained this ball here, they're going hard. And this person is also going hard to the bench to start, right? They see that these two outlets are filled, so they don't need to go there, right? And so they're headed to the bench. But the distinguishing feature is maybe not directly in the middle, maybe even a little further towards the bench. They need to look back and see if these two guys are in trouble. If they're not in trouble, the two of them are going to do an out and up, do their little outlet passes that we practiced, and try to run this ball deep here together. And then the offense will come on, like Kai said. These guys will give them the ball, and then they would get off. And that would be our change. Okay, but this guy is going to be running, and he's got to look. And if he sees some kind of issue, it's got to be a button hook back to the ball. And the goalie, who's counting in his head, because Noah knows he's only got 5 seconds here, and got pressure on these two people now, and none of them are open, what's the first thing you got to do, Noah? If it gets to 4 seconds and these two guys are covered over here and these three guys have all gone to the bench, seemingly, what's your next?
Come out of my crease.
Good call. Okay. A rookie goalie might say like ice it or something like that. But what you would want to do here, is step out of your crease right here.
Give me more time so my players can recover.
Right. And worst case scenario is dump it if somebody rushes you, but probably they don't even have a third guy. And if they do, if somebody like the guy who was covering this guy came charging at you, well, there should be somebody doing a button hook right in and around here, the third outlet. This person who was running off hard throws the brakes on, boom, right here, and you give them that pass. But even further still, the second or third time they throw that press, okay, we got to start button hooking. So this guy who went to the low outlet spot, let's just say there was a guy in here who's kind of like sitting in between the goalie and him. On their team. If this guy just goes and just sits here, that guy can intercept that pass. But if he comes down to the ball and recognizes that he needs to open up this passing lane for the goalie, Noah, this is actually where you would look if they threw pressure. This would be your first look. And this is our guys being prepared. They know it's coming, and we're still going to try to look for this. Because if you get this off, well, this guy does his button hook, and guess what? This guy just passes to the guy, our third outlet, and now we're safely out of the zone. All right, so the third outlet is the key. I can't stress it enough. Here now, I just want to connect this to our defensive scheme, because really what we're talking about is a transition to offense from defense. And last week we talked about fast breaks. Today we're talking about filling the outlets. I just showed you, okay, the kind of the main pieces of our outlets and where you got to be. And we know about running hard to the bench, not only in this slow break, but in the fast break too, because sometimes it'll turn a 2-on-1 into a 3-on-2 or something like that. So always hard to the bench. And the last point would being on possession, as I mentioned. So you can see, like on a loose ball, for instance, there's a loose ball and we might be losing by a couple goals late in the game. So you're cheating for a fast break because it's a 50-50 loose ball and you're betting your guy's going to get it. And it's worth it for you to cheat and run past the O guy who's kind of sleeping and go for a breakaway. That's a situational thing and relates to fast breaks off of a loose ball in a 50-50 battle, okay? But we're now going on the assumption that no fast break, possession is everything, okay? Fast breaks are huge. Like transition goals are make or break. They're going to win you a ton of games if you're good in fast breaks and you know how to execute on 2-on-1s and 3-on-2s. The next scenario, though, is knowing how to possess the ball and taking care of it, valuing it, and not leaving the zone until you have possession. Okay, so that's where it fits in our transition to O, and we're talking today a lot about these outlets and how to develop a systematic approach to those outlets and how to exit the zone. We started with literally just a basic outlet pass. So this guy here, loose ball. We taught you run it to the middle. You always run a loose ball to the middle. This guy wouldn't get a loose ball here and run up the boards because it doesn't even take, even if a guy pressures him here against the boards, which is a terrible situation to be in, and even if he slips through, everybody else is going to change, and then you're just going to hit another wall of players after you get through here. So the reason I even drew this drill up this way, I don't even like running this drill towards the bench. I want you to be in the habit of, you get a loose ball and you move it to the far side. And we also learned that moving it to the far side, especially if this guy was on his proper side and so was this guy, it's the easiest, safest pass, as opposed to down here where you have to pass across your body in a same-sided pass. Okay, which is, likely if you got a loose ball down here, you're going to try to carry it out here in a perfect world. If you carry it behind the net, it's going to relieve you some pressure, but what is it going to do that might hurt you?
Put you on your wrong side.
Maybe put you on your wrong side, but we're so far from the other net, it's not even has to be a consideration yet. There's something else that's happening that's not ideal. Okay, we're taking more time off the clock. So instead of getting out and up in 2 seconds here, by the time you turn this corner, get up, and then, I got to get all the way over to the far side now because I don't want to be by the bench clearing my zone. Now we're 10 seconds in. Now they've given you a little pressure and you got to run back and give a safe outlet. And now we're down to like 12 seconds to try to get a good shot on offense, which is just not enough time to execute our offense. So again, we're looking for, a safe pass to the far side away from the bench. It could be across your body, and you want to make the safe pass where possible. We always say try to get north-south. You should be able to beat anybody in the open floor. And 1 out of 10 times, maybe you do have to go up the boards. Because at the advanced stages of the game, this guy is going to position himself and take away the middle. And he's going to try to funnel you up the boards so he can pinch you off and rub you out on the boards here. So there is a time to go this way, but as a habit, if you scoop it, you want to run it to the middle because therefore the boards will never come into play. And theoretically, you should be able to beat anybody in the open floor if you know how to protect the ball, and that's just fundamentals. And that's keeping your body between the person trying to get it and the ball. And we've hammered that point home before. Okay, so that's about as basic as it gets. It's like a pass across the floor or up the boards. Okay, so basic, out and up. Now, the next objective here is, the next drill we do, after that person catches that ball, they want to run it deep. So that's what this drill is all about. You guys did this drill. I'm not going to get into too much detail there. Again, now we're doing it in twos. So in this drill, we're mimicking the middle outlet. We get the ball, the person in the outside lane is taking off, and we're just doing a basic pass up here. They would go in for a breakaway, whatever. If not, they would curl in the corner. As we know, we're running it deep here. I should make the point that, okay, obviously this is a slow break. They get it. They move it up. There's no fast break. So we want to run it to the hockey hash mark down here, which was that last drill. But what that does is it allows for one last opportunity before our offense goes 5-on-5. And I mentioned this to you. It is why we run it deep, is it turns all the defense to look at you, and it allows the fourth and fifth guy coming into the play off the bench. If your fourth or fifth guy beats somebody off the floor, we call that a bench assist, okay, because they created an odd man situation by running hard to the bench. They're going to be open, streaking through the middle, coming off the bench, and this guy has the defense turned, so they probably won't see them, and you can just make that pass. So that's why we get into that habit, but, for the sake of this drill, you just finish with a shot, whatever. But that's an out and up in two players. It's away from the bench. But here is an out and up situation with those two outlets that are maybe covered. Maybe this middle outlet is covered. And so this high outlet, we have them coming back to the ball, just the same as we could have the low outlet even coming back lower to here. But we do a little bit of a switch here where yeah, this person was taking off, and then it's kind of like, oh, we're in trouble. So this variation is about coming back to the ball. This person flashes in the middle and then realizes they're not open, realizes the pass is going here. So they hit the outside lane, and this person who was in the outside lane hits the inside lane. And we have this little north-south 2-on-1 that maybe could develop as a result. Who knows? But we're just practicing these little passes and scenarios that we could see in this two players breaking out together. Remember, we're running in twos wherever possible. Now we have the low outlet here coming back to the ball. It's a slow break scenario. And we have our middle outlet. So this guy does his button hook. In this case, he's covered. What's the next step? Is they run across the crease here. This person took off to clear space. They're going to hit the outside lane eventually here. But this person runs across the face of the crease, flashes their stick like this, and the goalie, who probably has stepped out of the crease here, can flip them the ball. That's another option. So we practice that, right? We might have this button hook here. If they had a full floor press on, this might be the outlet that we use to beat it right here. Not this button hook. It might not work anymore because I'm going to show you a full floor zone press that will cover this middle outlet eventually. So in the end, the golden rule is when in doubt, run it out. So when this guy gets it, if he's got nobody to pass to, he's just going to run. He's going to run it and just try to get it deep and run past people. And hopefully somebody's giving him some support, because you always want to have some support when you're breaking out. Eventually you get into 2 and 3 player kind of outlets. Let's just say you had no pressure, right? Here's your middle button hook. So, okay. Multiple players going on and out. Here is the most game-like scenario. This is like in our standard breakout where these two guys are covered. And this is how they would probably react. Okay. The drill is you roll it in, but they head to their breakout spots. They button hook back to the ball. None of them are open. So they take off and they try to clear space. And this middle player, the third outlet, button hooks back to the ball, receives it. And now they can hit those players up the floor here and move it. And again, all these drills are finishing with somebody shooting on the net, but really likely in any of these slow breaks, it's going to be finishing at the half boards over here and just continuing with our breakout. Okay, so these are just some other scenarios you might see. A partial breakaway. Okay, guy comes off the bench, maybe got a pass from somebody, right? Or coming in on the far side, whatever. And somebody said a bull rush last week is something you could do on a 2-on-1. This is actually a good scenario to bull rush the defender and try to get a shot before everybody's in the play, catch them off guard. But anyways, I'm getting to the person coming off the bench here is what I'm actually headed towards. So if you look at our standard breakout here, 2 guys have gone hard to the bench. We have our outlets. The first player coming off is a lefty, hitting the crease, trying to get a breakaway. Second 2 players are righties. The first one, if this pass is not open, they're basically getting this ball, hopefully from this pass here. They get it here, and they run it over deep into the corner, and we would start our offense. This last drill is you coming off the bench with the person low in the corner who ran it deep, hitting that player off who's streaking off the bench. Sometimes people will be coming off the bench on their wrong side, the second or third player coming off the bench, and this is the pattern that they could take. They might actually be able to walk up the middle, but they would get to their proper floor side first. Instead of running in like this on their wrong side, They'd loop it to their proper floor side and then down the middle. That is sometimes there, right? It's like the north-south give and go in the motion offense, if anybody remembers that. But anyways, that's basically packaged together our breakout. We gave all kinds of different scenarios out of this basic package that could happen, right? Whether you hit this outlet, this outlet, this outlet, okay, this outlet, this outlet. It's never going to be the same, right? And we sometimes do a drill where we start people in a shuttle in front of the net. Okay, so it's this, people are doing just a passing shuttle right here, these 5 players. And then all of a sudden I shoot it in as a goalie and there's a rebound or the goalie snags it. And people have to go from their random passing shuttle and then somebody just has to fill all of these outlets. And you do it by seeing where everybody else is. You know you're on the side of the floor away from the bench. So you need to know that you need to fill this spot if you don't see anybody there. That's where you need to be looking if your goalie gets the ball, right? So that's a big piece of the breakout. So we're going to switch gears now, and we're going to talk about the what ifs of if they throw up a press. And that was your homework, okay? So I asked you to create a press against a breakout and to identify the role of all 5 of the players in that press. Okay, feel free to use a diagram. Some of you did. And I'm going to get you to come in here at certain times. But we're going to walk through this the same way we did with the 2-on-1s. I think is a valuable exercise. When you see yellow, that is, I'm seeking clarification, I will say, on that from you. It's not necessarily wrong. The green, I feel, is right. And yeah, we're going to just tease this out. So this is a great point. The objective of the press against a breakout is to force a turnover or to kill the clock. I will say that most of the time it's to kill clock. You might be wanting to steal the ball. That's a different scenario. That's like end of the game, need the ball, and you're really trying to steal the ball. But if you're truly a team that's pressing and you know how to do a full floor press, which I do want to do with Team New Brunswick, which is partially why I'm bringing it up, you can just do it to kill time off the clock. And if the other team, again, shows up in your zone with 12 seconds on the clock, it's a good scenario. And it's going to get the offense frustrated on the other team. It's going to tire out their defense, who's going to have to try to get up the floor, and they're going to turn over the ball a lot. So anyways, this person says to do so, the defender has to play man-to-man, so the ball carrier has nowhere to go. The ball carrier would then be forced to either dump the ball or try to run it in. So he's saying all other outlets are basically locked off, is what I'm hearing. So that's actually a little bit different than what is on this diagram. Okay, it sounds like these 2 players were locked off up front based on what that person said. But this person's kind of floating in a zone here. He kind of just said, don't let anybody get past you, kind of see what happens or whatever. And so, yeah, okay. Maybe some people have changed and you're just kind of floating in here. I just wanted to just raise that point. Yeah, so, and great job that was actually Derek saying, trying to kill clock or force a turnover. So next we have a good point brought up by Noah, that part of the game plan here for the team breaking out would be to have, part of the game plan would be to have your fastest, most athletic player on the ball, if possible, I'm going to throw in there. So that's a great point, Noah. Yeah, you do. Sometimes if you're throwing up a press, you give certain players the role of being the pressure people. Sometimes only 2 or 3 of them. And that's like a lazy press, we call that, as opposed to a full floor zone press or a half floor man press. And I'll show you diagrams of both of those here really soon. But then Noah says, as soon as the opposing team gets possession of the ball in their end, the fast athletic player will attack them and immediately give them pressure and try to force a bad pass attempt. while the other players are taking the closest check to them. So Noah was suggesting also what I would call a half floor zone press or half floor man press. So I'm going to just show you that. He's basically saying that all of these red players have picked somebody up in the zone. Okay? Like this. Some of them might be trying to change. Somebody asking a question here?
Oh no, sorry, never mind.
No. Okay, so this here is a half floor man press. This is everybody's taking a player for half, just when they lose the ball on offense, and basically trying to get their fast player on the ball and trying to turn it over real quick down low here. Well, and a lot of times it's when you recognize it's a D player who's got bad hands. So you try to steal it from them. This ends as soon as this player gets past this player, whether it's this way or this way, this is off. You call this off immediately because now everybody has to start helping, right? This player has to kind of come over. This player has to drop back. Everybody's thinking of defense. But if this player can give good pressure and kill some time, it's one way to throw up some really good pressure. It is a little bit risky, not at your age as much as it is in junior and senior, where everybody is expected to be able to beat this guy. Everybody. Okay, if you turn that over in the open floor, you probably shouldn't be in the game. Like, it should happen 1 out of 10 times. Okay, so that's why as soon as it's broken, this person would yell, broken, broken. And everybody knows to don't worry about your guy, get back and fall back on and get into a house or get into your basic defense. All right, so that's kind of an important thing. So I just wanted to add that. I'm gonna take all those lines off though, and go back to this basic this zone that was kind of developing here. What somebody else was saying. Okay. So thanks for your contributions there, Noah. Those were all really good. Kai wrote, one righty pressures the ball while the other righty stays at the mid floor to pressure the pass coming to the players running off the bench. So he's also talking about this zone kind of one righty stays at the mid floor. That's kind of like a zone concept as well. The other 3 players run back to the defense. So he's almost talking about like a 1-1-3. All right. So 3 guys are back and 2 guys are up kind of thing. And he said he would lock off and it was a smart insight. He said, oops. See if I can move these. He would lock these 2 guys off over here. Okay. Let's just pretend we haven't even got these guys in yet. This was kind of Kai, if I'm not too far off, basically what you described is something like this, which I would call like a 2-1-2 or a 1-1-3. Okay, so sorry, this guy's probably right here. So that's another way to look at it. This, if you didn't mention this guy, Kai, if this guy wasn't in the picture here, truly, this would be what's called a lazy press, where you have only 2 guys stay pressuring and the other 3 get off. The other 3 get off, okay? And let's just say it happened like this. So in a lazy press, these guys would get off, and then 3 guys would come on, and they would actually back up those 2 guys, these 2 higher guys. If these guys did a good job pressuring, they could come in as reinforcement and try, because the other team, if they're smart, is going to basically be sending players in. Sorry, that's the wrong color. As outlets for these guys to pass to. Okay, so these guys coming off the bench could, in theory, maintain some pressure and kill more time off the clock. And again, by the time the other team gets it down to here, which is where usually everybody's objective, you've killed a ton of time. Also giving a second option of the two closest players to the ball attacking the opponent. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on that. So I'm just going to go back a bit here. They put as an option too is to put two guys on the ball and basically lock off everybody else. What's the problem here?
The guy open all the way on the other side of the floor.
Right. So all it takes is this pass here, and this person really should be able to run that deep with lots of space to work with. These guys would just need to stretch the floor, clear their guys out of the way, and this guy has an open path to run it deep now. So, yeah, so there is actually a time for this, though. Do you know when it is? Do you know when we would double the ball after we lose it on offense?
Like late in the game?
Yeah, possibly, but really you're giving up a 4-on-3 the other way when this guy just makes this pass. So that's pretty risky. I mean, maybe you're tempting them to try to take a shot, but really they're a good team would probably score or get a really, really good shot, which you don't want to give up. Does anybody know the situation where you would be doubling the ball after you lose it?
Oh, yeah, power play.
Power play. Smart. Good.
Hey.
Okay. Yeah, so if this player didn't exist over here, now this player has no outlet. So we do usually say after you lose the ball on the power play to double the ball carrier and everybody else walk off. There's another reason for that, and that's because this ball carrier in this situation only has 10 seconds to get it over this line. If not, they'll give you the ball back and you can go back onto your power play. So if I'm coaching and I'm on the power play, I usually get my team to do this after the I let the team get out the first 2 times. And then the third time, I try to pressure to get the ball back to give me another 30 seconds of power play. I wouldn't do it the first time because sometimes you get penalties here. Guys get too over aggressive and they high stick the guy or do something stupid and you end up killing your power play. But it is useful later because you steal the ball. Because what will happen is you'll get the ball with 2 minutes, then you'll use 30 seconds to run your play or whatever. Then they kill 30 seconds. Then you come down, run another play. So that's a minute 30 off the clock. So if you shoot and it's a loose ball now and there's like 30, 35 seconds left, if we do this, we can strip the ball, get it back, and have enough time to run a power play again. So again, that's smart lacrosse. And it's technically right in a certain scenario. So thanks for offering that. And then Kirsten offered a full floor press as well, which I had planned on letting him show, but I'm running a little bit late. But Kirsten, you basically did this perfectly. Okay, so this was what I showed you guys earlier. It's everybody takes a man. If these two guys change, you can change too, and then your guys who come off will pick those guys up, and we still have our press on. But again, if this guy gets off a pass, like let's say this guy button hooks, goalie hits him, he breaks the guy in the floor, everybody is off of this. That's why they call it a half floor press. You don't want this guy beating this guy here, and then everybody else is running with their check like along the boards in no position to help, and now this guy just walks untouched up the middle. So that's why you call it off, you kill it, you say it's broken, and that's the half floor press. The lazy press is here. This is where you send 2 guys in the I formation and attack these 2 outlet passes where the other 3 change. And I mentioned they can push up from the bench to support this later. And the most technical one, the hardest one, and I don't even have a ton of time to explain it, is the full floor zone press. So as you can see, this player here is kind of split between the middle outlet, who will be there if good teams know your press is coming, and the high outlet. And they're actually shaving a little bit more. They're kind of trying to get the goalie to float a pass almost over their head and into this high outlet spot. Okay, and if they do, great. We're going to have backup coming in. I'll tell you about that. But they might hit this pass here. If they hit this pass here, this guy's going to run to them, put pressure on them, at which point this middle outlet will probably just send the ball to that player. But that player, by that time, will have reinforcements coming in off the bench who will continue this press, okay? And so everybody else will stay locked off, and it continues. And basically your last two guys, so the third guy is the key guy. He's the guy who makes the decision. Because if this guy goes here, the third guy has to go here. If this guy goes here, the third guy has to go here on this outlet. Okay? And then the other two are in an I formation, just like we talked about in a 3-on-2. And the back guy specifically is called the rover, and his only job is not to let anyone get behind him on a breakaway. We are expecting to potentially give up a 2-on-1 here if they do a fantastic job of getting the ball out. But if they do, it's going to take them 15 seconds, and we're hoping we can recover and make it an even strength play where they only have 10 seconds now on offense. By the way, nobody would change after that. These two guys would have to stay. Maybe they could actually change if their two guys change late. But ideally they stay, we get the turnover, and then we throw our 5 guys on. So those are the presses in lacrosse. There's a couple other ones, like if you have a center line, you can throw up a half floor trap and try to trap them in with under 8 seconds and get an 8-second call. But like teams in the NLL aren't even doing that. Teams in the NLL aren't even doing this because a lot of them don't even know it. This is like a gem that I found from somebody in BC I'd never even heard of. Because most people would just throw up this half floor press, man press, and call it a full floor press. But it's riskier. If it only takes one guy to get beat, where in our other press here, if they get this pass off and this guy beats his guy, everybody's going to be sliding. This guy's going to leave his guy, and this guy's going to go to the next guy. And the next guy is going to go to the next guy. And we're just going to keep up constant pressure with a zone behind us. So whoever talked about zone today were right. Whoever talked about a man press today was right. And yeah, you guys took in a lot of information here. What I'm going to leave you with, okay, or what I want to ask you first is, across all those drills that I showed you, what do you think is the most important concept in breaking out that you learned today? If somebody comes to you and let's say you're under pressure, should you have somebody to pass to at all times?
Yes.
What is that also referred to as?
An outlet pass.
Yes, otherwise known as supporting the ball. So that is one of the major pieces of breaking out. There should always be support. Nobody should ever be out alone. You wouldn't appreciate it if it was you and you had some super athletic, aggressive guy on you and nobody to pass to. Albeit you should be able to run past those guys and feel confident to protect the ball still and eventually make a safe pass when you do get support. But what's the end goal in the slow break? What are we trying to do? Yeah, we're trying to run it deep, but what don't we want to have happen? What's the worst thing that can happen while we're breaking out?
Turn over the ball.
A turnover. And that's the other main point here today, was that we need to value possession and support the ball. Breakouts are about systematically moving up the floor without turning the ball over, okay? So leading into next week, Okay, we're going to, we have one last session. It's going to be on pick and rolls. Pick and rolls do come into play. It does somehow relate to this, and I'll tell you how next week. The fast break relates to the breakout, because if the fast break is there, you take it. If not, you do the slow break. And you got to read the situation, especially those high outlets, especially the one on the far side. But next week next session on Sunday, we're going to talk about the pick and roll. And my question for you, and I'll send it out tomorrow as homework, is how would you defend the pick and roll? In your own words, you can use diagrams, whatever you want, okay? Does anybody have any other questions for today?
No?
Any comments? You feel like you have a little bit more understanding of what your job is on a breakout now? Because it's important to know your job. Sometimes I throw blind passes because I trust my teammates so much that they're going to be there, that I just know they'll be in that spot. And I got 3 guys on me, so I just dump the ball to that spot and the guy is there. I don't recommend that, but we need to do our jobs in a breakout. And now you guys know. So let's carry that moving forward. Thanks again for this week and this weekend, and we'll see you on the weekend. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. See you.
Thank you.